Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Forecast. In today's video, I'm going to rank every manager from top quality to who I literally think should be unemployed. I've also got tiers of great, decent and question mark. Question mark's going to basically mean I think they just need another season to basically judge should they be unemployed or are they actually a decent Premier League manager. I'm going to start off with unemployed, and my first per candidate in there is Graham Potter. Graham Potter has had some success, obviously with Ostersons, and now he's had success with Brighton. But since then, he's really proved how much of a poor manager he really is. He's really poor with Chelsea, trying out crazy things, playing Sterling as a wing back, and currently at West Ham, it just doesn't fit. He's having a poor time there, and I genuinely think he should be in the Championship. Moving on to the second manager, and that is Daniel Farke. I'm also going to include Scott Parker. These two managers have a great ability to get jobs where it's basically impossible to fail. We've seen this happen too often. They're going with Norwich. We've got Daniel Farke at Norwich and Leeds, clubs that are basically guaranteed to go up, but he never keeps them up, and that's the problem. Daniel Farke's had multiple promotions, same with Scott Parker, but what does he actually do once he gets them promoted? He goes up with a stronger squad and always goes down in 19th or 20th and gets sacked, and then he finds another job very similar. Very skilled marketing from their agents is what I would say with these two. I think they're very good at finding jobs where you basically can't fail, and for that reason I think they should be unemployed because they don't really accomplish anything above expectations. Moving into managers who I think just need one more year to sort of prove to me where I actually think they should be. And starting off with Fabian Herzler. Fabian Herzler has actually had a full season in the Premier League where I actually think he probably underperformed. I don't think he underperformed hugely, but in my opinion, last year Brighton should have easily gone to Europe. Why? Well, first of all, Nottingham Forest finished 7th, above Brighton who finished 8th. They shouldn't be finishing below Nottingham Forest because their squad, in my opinion, has got more quality, and that is an underperformance from Fabian Herzler. He often went in bad runs of defeats, but also looked good at times. So I just wonder if a bit of consistency this year, then Fabian Herzler will be a good, decent manager. A lot of people will definitely have him, I think, higher up. I'm not so convinced that Brighton are going to have that good season. I think they'll more finish around 10th. I've seen a lot of people putting them in Europe. Moving on to the next manager, and that is Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim, I think, is probably a decent manager, but unfortunately, I just can't justify it right now with how poorly he's doing with Manchester United. Do I think it's Ruben Amorim's fault? Probably not. But can you put a manager who's finished 15th for Manchester United in decent? Probably not. He may well turn out to be a good manager if he gets sacked or if he leaves or whatever. I think Ruben Amorim will probably overperform at another club. Moving on to the next manager, and this, if you can't tell, is Keith Andrews when he was a player, because he's barely been a manager. And I just think with Keith Andrews, how can you actually judge someone that's never actually managed, and all he was Thomas Frank's set-piece coach? I think he absolutely sums up what this ranking is, and let's just see what he happens next year, and then I'll judge it. Moving on to Reggie Lebris. I thought it was harsh to put Reggie Lebris in with Daniel Farke and Scott Parker, because we've never seen him with another squad. Look, I think he did well last year with Sunderland. Now let's see what happens with a real test. Come on, Reggie Lebris. I do believe in him, and I really hope he can prove me wrong and go into decent and good at the end of the year. But I just think we just can't quite yet put him any higher than I'm just not sure until the end of the year. Moving in to decent managers, and the first decent manager I've got is Mikel Arteta. I'm sorry, a lot of people would put Arteta in great or even top quality, but until Mikel Arteta overperforms, I would refuse to put him any higher. I give him one season where I think Arteta overperformed, and that's obviously the season where he finished second. But he has never won a trophy apart from that FA Cup in the first season, and that for me means you can't be any higher than decent. Arteta needs to win something. He needs to prove me wrong, then he can go into great. If he wins the Premier League, I'll probably put him in top quality. But until he does that, until you get over the line, you're not moving from decent. He's also overperformed with Arsenal at certain points, finishing 8th, 5th. Most managers would be sacked for this. He wasn't sacked. He's been given a lifeline. I'll put you in decent, and let's see what happens. If it could well be that you will be in question mark or unemployed come the end of the season, though. If you don't win, again, you need to win to move up. Next up, I've got is Marco Silva. Marco Silva, I think, is just a really decent Premier League manager. I think that's exactly what he is. I don't think he'll ever probably get a move much higher than this, and that's why he's indecent. I think he's just a good mid-table Premier League manager, solid as a rock. Some people would definitely criticise me for putting Arteta and Marco Silva in the same level, but I actually think it's pretty accurate because both managers are performing exactly how you'd expect them to. Arsenal are comfortably in top four and sometimes in a title race, and Marco Silva is comfortably in mid-table, keeping Fulham up. Exactly what you'd expect from these two clubs. My next manager who I'm putting in is Vitor Pereira. I think Vitor Pereira really impressed me last year, and he could have easily been a question mark, but what I saw from Vitor Pereira with Wolves last year was so impressive. He really gave belief back to the club after being rock bottom in 20th when he came in, and he really gave Wolves that shining light, and they've easily stayed up. And I think Vitor Pereira will kick on this year and probably finish around 13th place. I think his tactics are spot on, the fans love him, so for that reason, Vitor Pereira is going to be in decent. My next manager is David Moyes. David Moyes is just a decent Premier League manager. He never quite succeeded when he's taken over a big club, but he's very good at steadying the ship. He was excellent at West Ham, got unjustly sacked in my opinion, then's gone to Everton and completely steered the ship, and I think Everton could end up in Europe this season. That's exactly what you get from David Moyes. He was obviously with Everton previously, overperforming with a low budget, and David Moyes, in my opinion, is a very good manager and a decent manager at that, and he's more pushing great, if I'm being honest. Moving on to great Premier League managers, and these are Premier League managers that consistently overperform with teams. Starting off with Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank consistently overperformed with Brentford, and now I think he may overperform with Spurs. I regret putting them in 9th place. They may have just come off a 1-0 loss to Bournemouth as of today, but I still think Thomas Frank is a quality manager and he will do well at Spurs now. Thomas Frank has been very adaptable with his play style and been very impressive with Brentford, which is a team that everyone thought in the first year would go down. People often say they're going to go down, but Thomas Frank seems to be able to find ways to keep the club in safety. Thomas Frank's also very adaptable in how he plays, which is very much required when you're constantly losing your best players like Tony. If he stayed the summer, he would have lost players like Mbeumo as well. And Thomas Frank has really, to me, proved why he's a great Premier League manager. Moving on to another manager that's been very adaptable, and that is Andoni Iraola. Andoni Iraola has lost his whole defence this summer, and still they seem to be playing brilliant football. And that's just credit to this manager. He continuously overperforms each year with Bournemouth, taking a team from relegation threatening to about 17th, 18th, you'd probably say they've finished, all the way up to 8th or 9th last year. He was also a crazy appointment, it seemed, at the time. People seem to forget this. Everyone was like, who is Andoni Iraola? They got rid of Gary O'Neill, who kept them in safety, and then they just appoint the Spanish manager, and they expect them to work it out. I really felt like that year Bournemouth were going to go down. I thought it was a terrible appointment. It made no sense. He's proven me wrong, and so have Bournemouth. They have been brilliant under Andoni Iraola. Moving on to another manager who's come up from the top and then really overperformed, and that's Enzo Maresca. Enzo Maresca, I didn't actually think had a great year with Leicester. I thought he was actually probably a manager that was somewhere around there. I thought he was very much like Scott Parker and Daniel Farke, a team that had just been given a great squad, and all we did was get them to play attacking football. Pretty simple if you ask me, but what he's done at Chelsea is really impressive, and he's even convinced me to put him in great manager. He consistently overperformed last year. He got top four, which I didn't expect. He also won the conference, which I did expect to happen, but then what the cherry on the top to put him into great was the Club World Cup. I know people go, oh, it's just a Club World Cup. It was very impressive against a PSG side that I don't think anybody thought Chelsea were going to beat, and I thought it was a tactical masterclass from Enzo Maresca, and I'm fully expecting Chelsea to be somewhere near the title come the end of the season. Moving into probably the only manager in here I actually think could be top quality, and that is Oliver Glasner. I think Oliver Glasner is one of the best managers in the Premier League, and he's just at a club that just doesn't invest enough money. And I really think that Crystal Palace board need to start thinking, if we want to keep Oliver Glasner for the future, we need to start investing, because he could be the future for this club, and he needs money. He's won the Europa League with Frankfurt. He then came into Crystal Palace, completely overperformed, got them from 16th all the way to 11th, and then he went into Crystal Palace at the end of last year and won the FA Cup. Tactical masterclass, in my opinion. Brilliant manager, top quality, really underrated manager as well. Probably the most underrated manager on this list. You know what difference these great managers have to the decent managers, especially like Mikel Arteta, is that all these four managers overperform, and that is what determines a great manager for me. If you can overperform with your club consistently, you are a great Premier League manager. Moving into top quality Premier League managers, and the first one I've got is Eddie Howe. I think a lot of people would probably put Eddie Howe in great. I really disagree. I really think he's actually up there with the best. I think Eddie Howe continuously overperforms at the top, which is harder to overperform than the bottom, and that's why I think he's been in the managers like Thomas Frank and Andoni Iraola. I think the only one that really where you can argue gets close to him on this list that so far is probably Oliver Glasner. Oliver Glasner is overperformed just as much as Howe, but what Howe's done is he's won a trophy but also got them into Champions League football. Eddie Howe, you would have never expected Eddie Howe to be at this level, I don't think. He really overperformed at all levels of football as well. He overperformed with Bournemouth down the lower leagues, and now he's at the top and winning Newcastle trophies. What an impressive manager Eddie Howe is. And he's also, his recruitment is brilliant. They often bring in exactly the sort of players that fit his style of football, and Eddie Howe really excels. Next one is Unai Emery. Unai Emery, you could argue, should be lower down because of his underperformance with Arsenal and arguably his underperformance with PSG. But I think he's probably the world's best with these sort of lower teams. It's starting to see that way, isn't it? Unai Emery continuously wins trophies, wins cups, keeps teams up, does everything you want for those sort of managers. He came into Villa in absolute atrociousness because of Steven Gerrard. He came in and he sorted the club around completely. He got them into Europe. Then next season he got them to Champions League. He got them to a Champions League quarter final. They were unlucky not to win against PSG. Unai Emery is a top manager, and I'd like to see another club give him an opportunity. Do I think it will happen? Probably not. But I could see, well, it was just like Simeone ever left or something. I feel like he would fit Atletico Madrid perfectly. Unai Emery. Moving into Arne Slot, I just think you got to have the Premier League winning manager there. Arne Slot really has overperformed this year. I would have probably put him in a decent or great manager last year. And as a Liverpool fan, I didn't think he would be able to do this. I thought he'd finish third or fourth, and he completely shocked me last year by winning the league. And what a manager he really turned out to be. His ability to make key substitutions is brilliant. His tactical flexibility is also very good. He adjusts in the biggest games. We saw him last year away at the Etihad. He went into Sabos like Curtis Jones up front, Diaz off the left, Salah off the right. It was a really interesting system, and I really like how he seems adaptable, very calm, very good at speaking to the media, everything you want in a Premier League manager. And of course, the best Premier League manager is Pep Guardiola. Used to have arguments with this when we had Jurgen Klopp in the league, and I would always say Jurgen Klopp is the best manager when it comes to managing at all leagues of football. But obviously now, Jurgen Klopp isn't in the league. It's obvious it is Pep Guardiola is the best manager in the league. You can't argue with it. He may invest more and he may have more money to spend every year, but he is just a winner. Pep Guardiola almost wins every year. He wins leagues after leagues in the Prem. He's been amazing. And you just can't argue with it, I don't think. I don't think there's anybody that actually gets close to him. It used to be a debate of Klopp versus Pep. Now there's no one near him. If Slot wins another couple of Prems coming up, then maybe you can start having the argument. Please let me know your overall thoughts on this video. Where could I improve? What's your thoughts on my tier list? And if you really enjoyed the content, it'd be great if you could like and subscribe to help support the channel.